Do you ever feel like no matter how much you're drawing, you're not actually getting better? You can fill up sketchbooks, copy tutorials, study masters, and yet you still feel stuck. And I have been there. A few months ago, I was very burnt out on my drawing. It felt like a chore, like I had to sit down and why am I doing all of this effort and yet other people are improving while I'm not improving? What am I doing wrong? Maybe something's wrong with my brain. I can't learn art. I'm just not talented enough. But it's simply because I didn't have the right systems in play. But now that I have those right systems and I trust those systems, I'm seeing consistent progress with my drawings. Now that I review my art, now that I track my art, and I add a couple of tweaks to how I do my practices, I have so much more motivation because my brain sees that, hey, we're putting in this effort and we're actually getting a return. We're getting somewhere with our practice. So now that love for art is reignited. Today I'm going to talk about the 3 habits that totally shifted the way that I go about learning art. Habit number 1 is understanding the difference between creative work and studying. Most people separate drawing for fun and drawing to improve, but it needs to be a proper split of 50-50, especially when you're a beginner. Half of your time should be put towards allowing yourself to be totally creative. The other 50% of the time should be put towards actual intentional study. And the better and more advanced you get at art, the more that line blurs. Eventually, your creative work becomes your study. But first you have to master the fundamentals. Think about a sport like tennis. Before you can play and allow the play to become your practice, you need to know how to hold the racket. You need to know how to pace yourself, how to hit the ball. You need to know the stance, the proper grip. All of these foundation things you need to master first before you can turn your play into your main practice. And the same thing goes for art. Before we can start to allow our creative work to become our practice, we have to master the fundamentals. And that is basic shapes like the cube. When you master the cube and you can start to manipulate it into different forms, now we can start to turn our creative work into practice because you can learn how to draw anything that you want from imagination. Because the entire world is made up of simple basic shapes. And if you know these shapes, if they're mastered in your mind, then you're going to be able to draw anything that you want. Habit number 2 is spaced repetition. Repetition by itself is not enough. We need to allow our brain a moment to digest everything that we've been putting into our mind. And this is completely science-backed. This is how memory is formed. If you think back to the days where you were at school, what were some of the methods that you used to memorize things in a test? I remember back at school, one of the main ways that we memorized things is we would read over a study and we'd put the book away. And 5-10 minutes later, we'd come back to that study trying to recite what we had learned to see where the gaps in our information were. And we can apply that same thing towards art. After you've copied a master or after you've done an anatomy study, you walk away, give your brain 15 minutes to digest what you've just taken in, and then come back and try to draw to the best of your ability what you remember. Don't expect some kind of masterpiece to be coming out of that drawing. Expect that it's going to look off. But those places that look off are where the gaps in your information is. That's your brain telling you that's exactly where we need to be practicing. And when you hone in and focus on where the gaps of your information are, that's when you start to see progress really quickly. Because many times as artists, we're kind of going in blind. We don't know what we're supposed to be studying to actually get better. Should I be focusing on the boxes? Should I be doing perspective? Maybe I should be focusing on the anatomy. But when your brain is showing you, hey, I don't know exactly how to draw this thing in this specific way, there's a gap in my understanding, that allows you to hone in on it 100%. And now you're gonna see progress. The repetitions are gonna build your muscles, but the space in between those repetitions is what's gonna build your memory. If you've ever felt like you spent 3 weeks studying how to draw the face, and then you come back a week later and you feel like, wait, what did I actually study there? And then you have to go back and restudy the face, constantly stuck in a tutorial hell phase. Try out implementing some of this spaced repetition into your practice of learning art. Habit number 3 is focus on the act and not on the outcome, especially when you're a beginner, because you want so badly for your art to be this beautiful masterpiece that you start to stress over when it's not looking how you want it to look. And that stress actually deteriorates your motivation. When you just show up to your art, accepting that I am where I am right now. I have to put in those reps. I have to put in the creative time, and eventually I will get to that place where I don't have to spend time practicing and then time doing my creative work. I can just do my creative work and that will be my practice. That takes that stress off of your shoulders and that allows that motivation to come in. It's one of the key ingredients towards the motivation. The other key ingredients is seeing progress. That's why having a system like these 3 habits is so important. Because if we lack a system that gives us progress and we spend hours and hours on our craft and we're seeing nothing in return, the brain is going to inevitably say, maybe we're not talented enough. Maybe art isn't for us, and the motivation will leave us, and we won't have that want to go and do our craft. And if there isn't that want to learn, then the process of learning itself is going to be very difficult. We need to romanticize the idea of drawing and start to enjoy it for us to want to learn. And when we want to learn it, all of the information that we're learning will stick into our brains so much more easier. I'm sure you've had it before where you learned a little golden nugget of information just randomly, and you thought that was so interesting, and it instantly went into your long-term memory. It stuck there forever. Well, we can access that type of information gathering process when we're enjoying something like art, when we're not stressing about, I have to get better, or why am I not improving? When you can put your trust in your system, when you can put the trust in that this hour I will be learning something, that motivation will find you. And every single day you can sit down and actually love the process of drawing. But you have to sit down and enjoy the act of drawing and not stress about what is going to be coming out on the other side of this hour or 30-minute drawing session. The fastest way to kill your motivation for art is to chase that perfection. If you can leave perfection at the door and just draw for the sake of drawing and follow a system like the one in this video or the one that I have in my previous video, then you will find your love for drawing. And when you have that love, the feeling of motivation will be an endless supply to you because you have all of the right ingredients to achieve it. So wherever you are in your art journey, you don't need more hours. You don't need to just practice more, bro. You just need to be having a proper system. With just 20 minutes every single day, if you're practicing in the right way, you'll start to see that progress. Once you fall in love with art again, you'll start to see how fast things shift for the better. If you just want to get better at drawing, or you want to learn how to draw from imagination, the first link down in the description below, there's a free ebook that you can pick up that has examples and assignments that you can follow along with a system that will show you how to learn art and how to progress so you actually start seeing that improvement and learn to fall in love with art once again. I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. Let me know down below which one of these habits you found most helpful, and I'll see you guys in the next one.